Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. Another day, another commitment for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights football team. Another big-time portal edition. If Eric O'Neill was the most talented player that Rutgers has ever landed in the portal, I would say that this player that we landed today is a close second. Bradley Weaver, the 6'4", 262-pound defensive end from Ohio, committed to Rutgers today, or signed with Rutgers today, and adds to a massively bolstered defensive line for the Scarlet Knights. We'll get into what he brings as a player, how he ended up at Rutgers, and more. But first, this podcast is once again presented to you by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season with our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we've got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your support for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. Use our promo code RutgersRivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Knight and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights. We are also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for a welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, so Bradley Weaver, we kind of hyped him up. Give you a little background on him, and then Rich, I'll pass it to you to talk about how he ended up at Rutgers. So he is a defensive end from Ohio University. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. He's originally from Hilliard, Ohio. That might sound familiar. Brendan Bordner, is also from Hilliard, Ohio. They didn't go to the same high school, and they weren't, playing high school sports at the same time. But that's why it might sound familiar. This past season, he had 44 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. He was first-team All-MAC. He was the MVP of the MAC championship game, which Ohio cleaned up. They had a massive victory over Miami of Ohio. They won their bowl game against Jacksonville State. PFF-wise, he had an 84.1 grade, which is 37th out of 869 defensive ends. He was one of the best run defenders of any defensive end. He had an 87.1 run defense grade, which was 16th out of 869 qualifiers. He got really hot over the final stretch of the season. In his final 7 games of the season, he had 10.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. 5 of his 6 highest grades on the season were the final 5 games of the year. In terms of his pressure numbers, he had 50 pressures on the season, which was 23rd for defensive ends. He had 31 hurries, which was 16th for defensive ends. He had the 16th highest stop rate for defensive ends at 10.1%. A lot of accolades there. He was also a bit high-end wrestler in high school. He was the 2021 Ohio 285 individual state champion in Division I, which is their highest division for high school sports. He was the first title winner individually in school history for wrestling as well. So just like a really good athlete. And you can see kind of how he uses hand placement, and that kind of translates from wrestling and how he uses leverage. So we'll get into his game. We'll go through some highlight clips, but let's talk about his recruitment, Rich. How did Rutgers land this kid, and who else was in contention to land Bradley Weaver?
Yeah, so they reached out. I don't even remember when. It's been a couple weeks now since they've reached out originally.
Actually, I'll tell you when.
You got all the info now. You might be surpassing me at this point, but a kid from Ohio didn't really have many offers out of high school. His major offer was Ohio. A bunch of smaller schools also offered, but chose Ohio, committed to there. Redshirt at year 1, but still appeared in 4 games, and then kind of took off from there. 2022, he played in a couple more games, and I think he only started 1. 2023 is when it really took off. Led the team in sacks. I think he was second in tackles for loss in 2023, and then 2024, it was just full-blown sack leader, all MAC. What did you say, 13, 14 tackles for loss this year? Forced fumble, block kick, kind of does just about everything. Multiple forced fumbles, sorry. Just very, very disruptive. He was, like you said, I don't know if you said it before, but he was 21st in the nation for tackles for loss this year. Eric O'Neal was 6th in the nation for tackles for loss. So, like you mentioned before, Bradley Weaver is probably their second best portal get ever, right behind Eric O'Neal, who they also just got. Eric O'Neal is number 72 in the country per Rivals. Bradley Weaver is number 93 in the country per Rivals. 2 4-star defensive ends for Rutgers. The best defensive end remaining in the cycle currently. Could someone else jump in, surpass him? Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Other guys committed? Yes. Who cares? The number one available defensive end edge rusher right now was Bradley Weaver, and they landed him. This is just phenomenal for Rutgers. Not only do you have I'm going to say it, they have a better edge rushers than last year. Like, I don't think that's the best edge rushing duo in God knows how long. I can't even go back because like that. I point it back to that 1 year of Kamoko Touré's freshman season where he went completely nuts. But he didn't have a second edge rusher on the other side that was helping him just as much. This combo is going to be phenomenal. He's actually even a little bit bigger than I thought he was. He's 6'4", 262 per Ohio Athletics website, which is significantly bigger than I actually thought he was. I thought he was more like 240-ish, 245-ish. But that kind of size in the Big Ten, that kind of disruption. Also, you have 2 defensive end coaches that coached in the MAC, know what he can do, and this is just big to also beat out two Big Ten programs. It felt like everything we heard, I should say, was Wisconsin was going to pull this one out, and they had him on campus. I forget,
this past weekend.
Before that, he visited Indiana, so Indiana wanted him as well. Indiana, we know, has significant NIL. Wisconsin, we know, has beaten out some other Big Ten teams, including like the likes of Penn State, Michigan, for some defensive tackles on the defensive line as well. They have NIL. And then Rutgers, he gets to Rutgers campus, visits this weekend as well. I said as well like 4 times, but got the Rutgers campus, and that was it. Sold the deal. Greg Schiano continues to be one of the best closers, I guess, when it comes to recruiting. He has not missed on a single kid that has visited campus as of right this minute. However, Owen Wafle, we still to be determined, but it sounds like it's down to Penn State and Rutgers as well. I said it again. Fuck. No more as well, but this is huge for Rutgers. Great get, massive get, literally, figuratively, and you have the best defensive line in God knows how long. Like, this is such a good defensive line unit. Colin Farrell and Julian Campenny have to earn their paychecks this season.
Yeah, they certainly have. Big shout out to Colin Farrell, defensive line coach, and big shout out also to Julian Campenny for the recruiting job that both of these guys have done to get this defensive line significantly elevated in the offseason with these additions. Like, I cannot tell you how night and day different this defensive line is going to look, not only from a player composition standpoint, but from a production standpoint this upcoming season. Like, these guys, the 2 defensive ends they landed in the last week are, like you said, better defensive ends, in my opinion, than we've seen here in at least a decade. At least. These guys have the production. You look at how they played against, Power 4 competition. They've been productive in those games. And if you just look like, this kid entered the portal on December 28th. We started following him immediately. There was some breadcrumbs left that if you listen to the pod, you've already heard of this kid. You knew that there was something possibly brewing behind the scenes because of something that we talked about, which Greg Schiano doesn't really follow any kids on Twitter. And you look at who he recently followed that we went through in a recent pod, and it was all commits and then Bradley Weaver. We thought, oh, that's interesting. Not necessarily meaning he's going to commit, but that's very interesting. Sure enough, they land this kid. They were super, super high on him. I can only imagine that they're doing backflips right now at the Hale Center after landing this kid. You have 2 defensive line coaches who competed against this guy in the MAC, in Colin Farrell at Akron and in Julian Campenny at Bowling Green. So both of these guys have had to game plan for this guy. Both of these guys have seen him up close and personal. And another connection, Shedrick Rhodes, backup tackle for Rutgers, who will be finishing his career next year as well, was his teammate at Ohio as well. Exactly. I can't speak highly enough about this kid. I'm going to look up when the Schiano follow happened, because that was a few days ago, but just keep this. What else do you have on him?
So this Rutgers is now one of only a select few programs that have at least 2 or more top 100 ranked portal targets, right? Or portal entries, I guess. He's also the second second highest ranked kid currently in the portal per Rivals that has not committed anywhere. Huge. I know people are going to question it a little bit when they see Ohio because of what Shedrick Rhodes was. Shedrick Rhodes came into Rutgers completely out of shape. This kid, Shedrick Rhodes, came onto campus in middle of summer, versus whereas this kid will be on campus as soon as classes. Well, technically, I guess classes started already, but he will be enrolling this semester and get going, get with the weight program, strength and conditioning program, and get things going. I don't think. There's a difference, too. On top of it, Shedrick Rhodes wasn't like an all-MAC kid. He was solid. He wasn't great at the MAC level. This kid was legit at the MAC level. So two totally different kids, packed on a lot of weight since his high school year, too. Like I mentioned, 262, 264, something like that. Just a really, really good get. And even though these guys might not put up like insane sack numbers, they're going to put up at least solid sack numbers, and that's a big improvement from last year. On top of it, it's going to force the quarterback up more in the pocket, and that's where I think guys like Daryl Dingoe, Doug Blue Eli, Kashawn Griffin, who knows, maybe even Owen Wafle, will be creating some more pressure and getting more sacks just because this guy's going to have to step in the pocket, and it's going to collapse eventually. And I am really confident in these two defensive ends. I'm very high on them. I know guys that I've talked to in the industry, not from Rivals before you start attacking us, that aren't fans of, or I shouldn't say aren't very high on Rutgers. When you talk to them, they're like, holy shit, what's going on over there? And I'm like, yeah, I don't wish I knew, buddy. Like, It's crazy what money can buy, right?
It is. It is. It just shows, even though I want to put this caveat out there, we're still not as well funded as, the true blue bloods, the Texases, the Ohio States. But this is showing how dangerous Greg Schiano can be when the playing field is even close to being level. Like, he is absolutely cleaning up right now. So Schiano started following him on Twitter on December 30th. So 2 days after he entered the portal. He visited this past weekend in a very hush-hush visit. We had talked about, again, if you listen to the pod, you would know that we were expecting some visitors other than Jet Elad to be on campus this past weekend. Everything was entirely buttoned up, very close to the best kind of stuff. But Jet Elad, another connection here. Jet Elad was Bradley Weaver's teammate
forgot about that.
at Ohio for 3 years before he transferred to JUCO and before he ended up at UNLV. So a lot of connections here for in both the roster and the coaching staff, but just like an incredible pickup. Couldn't find any highlight tape on him, but there are a few clips on Twitter that I'm going to bring up here to just show the kind of I don't want to say like the motor of him, but he just like the way he pass rushes is just kind of he is like a force of nature. So he's got a really good bull rush. I don't remember which of these clips really demos that well. That's really loud. Sorry.
Turn that one down.
But he's on the edge here on the left side. There's a rip move. Didn't even stand a chance. The running back there. We'll play it again. But just completely owns the right tackle here.
He's just very productive, like very disruptive. He doesn't like do anything super crazy, but he's just very, very talented, man. Like he's able to get around those right tackles easily.
Just makes a sack there with one arm as he's getting held by the right tackle as well.
Now, mind you, Big Ten tackles are a little bit different, but I still think he's still going to be able to be very, very disruptive. Like, how much was the second leading sack guy in Ohio? I'd like to know that because even when he's not creating sacks, he's creating pressures, and that's huge. But he's also from
kick.
He's also from a winning program too. On top of it all, like Ohio's had two 10-win seasons in a row now.
Yeah, so Ohio's actually had 3 straight 10-win seasons. So in the time that Bradley Weaver's actually played at Ohio, all he's known is 10-win seasons. So they went 10-4 his redshirt freshman year. They went 10-3 his redshirt sophomore year. They went 11-3 this past season, winning the MAC championship for the first time in his career.
UNLV, Jet Elad went 9-5 last year, 11-3 this year. You're bringing winning culture players too to the program on top of it all. Eric O'Neal, James Madison won games this year. Like
Yeah.
That's a wild tweet from Morgan State to tweet that out, actually.
I know.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I guess we want views, but whatever. Besides the point.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Because you got to figure there's going to be people looking for that clip. Might as well get the views and whatever revenue you can get from that.
Odd.
But just like the way that these two ends are going to transform our defense is going to be something that we've kind of not seen in a long time. I know that in 2005, Ryan Neal and Val Barnaby had 10 plus sacks each, but that was when we were playing in the Big East, like much different day and age.
Big time.
Like these two guys probably will both get drafted after 1 year at Rutgers. And I say probably, and I don't want to say like give a round estimation, but both these guys probably could have gotten drafted this year if they wanted to leave early, but they want to raise their stock, play at a higher level, make some money while they're doing it. And I don't blame them. Like I'm blown away. I have criticized the staff in the past for not going into the portal enough. And this year I'm just blown away that they've done such a good job of self-scouting and done such a good job of identifying players that they like and aggressively going after them and landing and closing the deal. Because that is not easy. You cover Penn State and you've seen their struggles in closing deals. They haven't had a lot of success at all trying to reel in some of their top targets. And all that Schiano and staff have done is pull fish after fish out of the ocean that they got on the hook. Like they have not missed once. And I can't tell you how impressive that is.
It's insanely impressive. And I mean, I know I keep bringing his name up, but you land Owen Wafle and it's all bets are off. I don't think he's going to lose another recruiting battle because that's a kid that most programs, or I shouldn't say most programs, every program he visited really wants him, whether it be Wisconsin, whether it be Penn State. I think he visited Indiana too. I don't see that one happening, but Oklahoma. That's what it was. So it's insane that he's just pulling off target after target, and anyone that visits campus, he's landed. Like, for example, I know you mentioned Penn State. 1, 2, 3, 11, 12 kids have visited Penn State so far. They've lost out on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of those 12 kids, with one more still uncommitted in Owen Wafle. So we'll see what happens there. But it's just crazy that like he's landing all these kids, whereas other programs with notoriety, hell, Penn State's in the semifinals right now.
Yep.
And they can't land a defensive tackle. That's been 3 defensive tackles on campus, 3 guys gone. So it's just goes to show you, like, NIL is definitely a little bit of a factor here too. Like that's not a question. I mean, it's not just revenue sharing at this point. It's more than that, and you got to give them credit because it's not just the recruiting factor. It's you being able to raise NIL funds and showing that when I have, or if I'm Schiano, you're showing that when you have money. And even, like you said before, an even playing field, it's not even even at this point. It's still very uneven, but you're a little bit closer than some other programs. And now it's like, oh, okay, look what I can do when I have a little bit. So yeah. I wish that 2025 schedule was the 2024 schedule. That's the only thing.
I do too. It's a bit of a bummer. But I guess it kind of is what it is. I do want to juxtapose some stats here. These are the hurry numbers between Rutgers players and between the guys we picked up this year via PFF. So I just have Rutgers, James Madison, and Ohio here. Mm-hmm. So Eric O'Neill, 38 pressures. Yeah. I'm going to blow this up a bit.
Next level.
38 pressures. Bradley Weaver, 31. And then you look, Eric O'Neill almost has doubled the amount of pressures that Aaron Lewis had this past year. And then you look at the other players who qualified, 20% of team snaps. Jordan Walker had 15 pressures. Jordan Thompson had 12 pressures. Like, these guys are just next level, dude. I know it's a lower level, but...
Wait, pull that back up real quick.
Yeah, sure.
This goes back to my argument before. Even when Bradley Weaver's not creating havoc, he's creating, his other defensive ends being able to create havoc because he's creating so much havoc on the right side or left side, whatever he's on. And it's right there. Like, he technically has more pressures than Bradley Weaver. So
yep.
Is he talented, that other kid? I'm sure he is, but I'm sure having a guy like Weaver on the other edge is definitely helping things significantly.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
It's also crazy Wesley Bailey didn't make that list. Like, he didn't have 20% of snaps.
He only played
insane. Like,
yeah.
Think
he only played 4 games, and we played 13 overall.
And he quit.
But just to think, like, we upgrade from, a guy who can't stay on the field in Wesley Bailey, who, has flash talent, but hasn't actually, like, put it together for a full season. And Aaron Lewis, same thing.
No, we recorded a little early, but it went public.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get this out as soon as possible then.
So if you're listening, I swear I didn't know ahead of time.
Look at these pressure numbers, though. Eric O'Neill, 58. Bradley Weaver, 50. Aaron Lewis, about half, 32. And I think he was close to the top of the Power 4 last year in pressures in terms of Aaron Lewis. So these guys are bringing some much-needed nitroglycerin along the defensive line. Wafle could be the next to commit as well if things keep trending the way they have been. Owen Wafle was on campus on Tuesday, like we said.
Monday,
I'm sorry. He was on campus in Wisconsin yesterday. I think he's on his way back now.
Yes.
But expect that decision this week as well.
Mm-hmm.
From what you're hearing, where do things stand with Wafle? I know we kind of talked about it, but just to put a pin in that.
It's right now, I know Oklahoma felt very confident after their visit, but they also had the first visit, which doesn't mean shit in transfer portal, to be honest with you. I think right now it's going to be Penn State or Rutgers. He wants to be close to home. He wants playing time is a major factor, and that's a major reason why he left. Where the hell did he leave? Michigan. Because Michigan went out and not only had several guys ahead of him, but went out and also added several guys as well. Said as well again. Damn it, I can't stop myself. So he does, playing time is a factor. I know most people would say, oh, well, Rutgers has the immediate route to playing time versus Penn State. Yes and no. I mean, their defensive tackle situation is very weird. They have Zane Durant as a starter. They have Alonzo Ford, who's coming off of surgery. And then really everyone else hasn't played many snaps. So is he better than those guys? Who knows? They are also trying to add a tackle on top of Owen Wafle. They would like to add 2 defensive tackles this cycle. So I do think Rutgers has the quicker chance at him getting playing time. Also, you're closer to home. He's a Middletown, New Jersey native. He played at Princeton. Like, a lot of things add up here. And whoever gets him has a damn good shot at his brother. I'm heard it's a package deal from some, and now I've heard others say it's not 100%, but I feel like that's just a cop-out, just saying, like, we can't just guarantee, like, he's going to get a package deal, because then there goes all our offers for Luke. And it's like, oh, okay, sure. Like, so, I mean, they have a damn good shot at him, though. So I would say they're probably in the top 2, just kind of waiting to see what happens there. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Obviously, being a true freshman this past season, didn't play at all. He's still going to be a developmental guy, but he could be easily a rotation player for Rutgers this upcoming season. But having 4 years of eligibility and the better than 50% chance probably of landing his brother if you land Owen. Like, Luke Wafle might be one of the better defensive ends in recent memory in terms of prospects out of the state of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So ranked 70th right now. Really promising development there. But I can't believe that we landed not just like landing Bradley Weaver alone would have been an incredible haul along the defensive line this past year, but to land him and Eric O'Neill, I just can't believe it. Like,
that might feel like we're not talking about Dengoe enough. Like, Dengoe's got 3 years. He's talented.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think this is hyperbole, but the duo of Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neill is right up there in the top 3 or 4 duos in terms of defensive ends in the Big Ten next year. Like, what a pair to land. We'll have more about him in the coming days, but we wanted to get something out to you guys as soon as possible.
Real quick,
blown away with this commitment.
A little more insight. I'm told Shiano is the one who actually went all in on this one, which, I mean, doesn't shock me considering the follow, like you said. He just kind of hit it off with the kid too. They just on the visit, they really just built a relationship, built a bond with one another. He's a hard nosed kid, hard work, blah blah blah, all that other stuff. You can say that about a bunch of kids, but it just seems like they really hit it off. Shiano sold him on the program. Being a Midwest kid, loves the Big Ten, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, love this commitment, and I just, with basketball being a little disappointing, I'm so glad that football has been. Listen,
sorry.
I'm so glad that football has had such an exciting off season because it gives you something to look forward to for the spring in terms of spring ball, and also just. Sorry, that's all a trash can flying across the thing was mine.
I hate getting hopes up, but is this like the most anticipated season for Rutgers football?
I think it will be. We were talking earlier about how while the schedule is tougher, I personally would rather go 7-6 in a season where you get a top 10 win versus 9-3 in a season where you didn't really have anybody of notice to play. So I think Rutgers has the pieces to pull off a big upset next year, which I don't think I would have said any time in recent history. So just really excited for this football season with the players that they've added.
Yeah. Should be a fun one.
So that is it for us, guys. Stay tuned to your podcast feeds and the boards because I'm sure there will be more about this. And Owen Wafle will be deciding soon too, so we might be back on here sooner rather than later. But once again, thank you for listening. Not a bad thing. For me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.